Did you ever see a arcade machine of Forgotten Worlds in the wild back in the day? I lived by the seaside back in the 80s and 90s with access to arcades, many and varied, at least 20 plus venues, and not a single one of them had a Forgotten Worlds machine. That's facts. I only ever saw one Strider machine that was in the South Pier, and I didn't see Ghouls and Ghosts anywhere. So back in the kind of late 80s, people weren't really buying Capcom machines where I lived. So there's like 20 arcades in like a 10-mile radius. There was a Bionic Commando, Ghosts and Goblins, Trojan, 1942, he says with questioning tone. Yeah, there wasn't enough Final Fight until Street Fighter 2 came out. That was kind of all you got from Capcom. Yeah, sparse. So if you're like me, you're probably more familiar with the home conversions of Forgotten Worlds, and I did actually buy the Amiga version of this game, and I emphasise the word buy because no one really bought Amiga games back in the day, did they? They kind of had a box of diskettes with labels which had names crossed off on them of previous games that you've X-copied onto them. Like, I got my Amiga second hand. I only had my Amiga for 6 months. There was a lot of games I did enjoy in there, and I only paid for about 5 games in the whole time of me owning an Amiga. One of them was Forgotten Worlds. The other ones were like, I think one was Turrican. Played that to death. Used to be able to complete Turrican on like 2 Live or something. I got shit good at that. Gauntlet 2, I think that was a budget release. Bobble Bobble, I seem to remember I had. And a game called Nitro by Psygnosis, which was a top-down racing game which featured a digitised image of Sylvester Stallone. Probably without him or his agent knowing. Yeah, I went to the the old local video games emporium. You know, so I caught Forgotten Worlds out the corner of my eye. It had 20 quid written on the box. It had dragons and lasers and gods on the back. And I just went, yeah, that's for me. That game is almost... It's like they've got into my brain, teenager brain, and dissected exactly what it is I want from a video game, and then stuck it on a disc. I had no idea the Amiga version was severely cut down from the arcade, however. I don't really remember what it was like. I do remember enjoying it, and I didn't begrudge paying £19.99 for it, even though I can't have been much more than 13 or 14, so I had 0 cash. I don't know where I got money from back in the day. I don't know, it just kind of appeared. I had a paper round. I got 4 quid a week. So unless I was saving up my paper round money and any lunch money my mum gave me to buy games, I can't think how else I would get them. And it's not like I've got something blanked out of my memory, like I did something horrific or stealing, because I didn't do either of those things. So yeah, don't know what happened. But yeah, 20 quid back in the day, in the 80s, was a lot for a game. It's quite a lot for a game now, and but back then, yeah, it was super expensive. Anyway, I don't know if the Amiga version was any good. I remember enjoying it, and there's no possible way for me to find out if the Amiga version was any good because no media for it exists anywhere on the internet. It does, I just don't want to ruin my memories. Anyway, the Megadrive came out in 1989. The guy in the aforementioned video game store, he stuck one out on display. I think he put Thunder Force 2 on there. So I used to stand in the shop playing Thunder Force 2 for a bit. The Megadrive was freaking amazing. I saw Golden Axe on it, and I saw Thunder Force 2, and there was another game, Ghouls and Ghosts. When I saw Ghouls and Ghosts, when that dropped, I sold my Amiga immediately. I hated the Ghouls and Ghosts conversion on the Amiga, and went and bought myself a Megadrive, and it came with Altered Beast at the time. Great days. Yeah, so I sold my Amiga, bought myself a Megadrive, and then got myself a copy of Forgotten Worlds on the old MD, which became one of my favourite 16-bit shoot-em-ups for a long time. A, because I had nothing else to play on the Megadrive because of, reasons not having much cash, and B, because it's a cracking little game. So let's have a look at it. Let's break it down a bit. So why do I like Forgotten Worlds? Well, number one would be the theme. I did mention there were gods and dragons in the game, but also, and this is just the first level, we've got destroyed cities, we've got spider robots, we've got robots that kind of pull shit out of the ground and sort of stack it up and like hit you in the head with them. We've got a space currency which floats around and it's like bigger than your head. You got flying lizardmen. You got subterranean shops staffed by bridesmaids, oddly. You've got industrial kind of areas with like pipework that spews out toxic gas. You kind of got greatest style bases that launch little fighters at you. Cogs that want to crush you. You've got sort of spiky things that come out of the terrain and try and hurt you in a kind of weird alien factory. And you've got like a gargantuan sentient angry bacteria who wants to spit bacteria. Well, it looks a bit like an arse. It looks like an arse in the middle of a dog turd, and it's like firing crap at you. But also, weirdly, can levitate assets around itself. Anyway, that's just the first level. Yeah, that's crazy, man. That appeals to me on multiple levels. The overarching theme for the whole game is gods and monsters and civilizations, kind of lost civilizations, which is really groovy, and it allows for a lot of variety and just a lot of cool stuff to shoot, like pharaohs and that. Yeah, it's good. It's got, soldiers with guns shooting pharaohs in the face. Yeah. Number 2, it's the genre. It's a shooter, a horizontal shooter, which is my favourite flavour of shooter, as it happens. Don't mind a vertically scrolling shooter, but the horizontal variety is for me. You got full movement around the screen. You have full 360 degree movement on your character, so you can spin him on the spot. Enemies come at you from all directions, and you have an energy bar, which is groovy, so you don't just get one-hit kills. You start with a drone in the Megadrive version. You have to buy that in the arcade, but you start here with the V-shot, and the drone can kind of deflect smaller bullets. So if you get your mind around the control system, which takes a little time, but it is pretty flexible, you can put the drone in a position where it kind of bats away a lot of the flak that comes at you. You can power up your main gun in a different order to the arcade. You can change your loadout on the drone by spending money in the shops with the weapon dealing brides. Weapons are quite satisfying to use. They look pretty damn cool. 2-player mode is cool in this as well. So you've got a co-op mode where when your characters come together, electricity flows through them. I guess some sort of bro thing going on there. But it's all groovy, and you basically, horizontally scrolling shooter, and it's fairly easy, which is a bonus. Which leads me on to point 3. It's a slick mover. The control is very tight. The control system is handled really well. If it was given to a lesser developer, they could have screwed that control system right up. But here, you hold down the B button to fire on a standard 3-button Megadrive pad, and A and C rotate your character left and right. If you take your finger off the fire button and use the A and C button, you can make your drone fly around you. So yeah, like I said, it takes a little time to get used to, not a huge amount of time, just a little time. But it's cool. It's just a pleasure to play. It's really slick, it doesn't slow down. There's lots of things to shoot. Yeah, it just feels right, controlling the characters. Point 4 would be difficulty specifically. Yeah, it's pretty damn easy. And it's satisfying to finish. You can go through the whole game with just one of the guns. It's not, so that's how easy it is. The arcade version is nightmarishly difficult in comparison. So yeah, for me, it being on the easy side just makes it a bit more fun. It means that you can sort of test out a lot of the weapons, whereas in many games you just don't bother with some of the loadouts just because you get a favourite gun and you just want to use it. But when a game's slightly easier, it kind of gives you a bit more of a option to just test stuff out, see if you like it. Point 5 would be audio visuals. So the soundtrack is pretty good. It's got the Megadrive normal problems on early Megadrive games anyway, where it's a bit squeaky, there's not a lot of bass. Compared to Revenge of Shinobi, which came out the same year, it's slightly laughable, but it is a step up from something like Space Harrier 2, which sounds like someone blowing farts through a comb, a bit of tissue paper on a comb. It's just, that game's just got a weird sound, apart from the death effect. Forgotten Worlds does have hummable tunes. The sound effects are a bit too loud in the mix. It does have some nice reverb on it, unlike a lot of the Capcom games had. One of the channels had some reverb on it. They do it a lot in Ghouls and Ghosts as well, and it sounds pretty cool. When you use the fire button, it cuts out some of the channels of music. And I think, from memory, it's the percussion a lot of the time, which is annoying. The visuals are kind of alright. They're not a patch on the arcade machine. They range from average to awesome. We have some very naively drawn things at times, but then you get things like level 3 boss and you just go, well, that looks cool. It still looks cool to this day. Yeah, it's on a tiny cart size, so a lot of the animation seems to be cut down. A lot of the background tiles are kind of cut down. A lot of the things that you find in the arcade machine a lot later, including 1 or 2 levels, have been cut. So yeah, the cart size didn't help, but what's there is generally acceptable. Or excellent, depending on which part of the game it is. I'd love to have seen an 8 megabit or 16 megabyte bit, not megabyte, megabit. I think they were all megabits back in the day. Version of this game where it kind of converted the graphics, over a bit more intact with all the levels. Later Capcom games were handled a bit better on the Mega Drive visually because they used larger cart ROM sizing. So things like Strider are a bit more accurate, a bit more like the arcade. Colour depth thing was still a bit crappy on Strider, but it did have a lot of the content still there. So I'd love to have seen that version of Forgotten Worlds with a larger ROM size. I suppose number 6 would be nostalgia. So I played this when I was a teenager, and like anything you do as a teenager, it's the best thing ever. And as an adult, this game kind of reminds me of carefree times before taxes and responsibility. Yeah, and nostalgia lets me overlook some of the issues with, well, Mega Drive games, specifications, that sort of stuff, just because I remember having such a good time playing this game back in the day. I got positive feelings, so I invested in it, and it's got some meaning to me. I'm sure other people who just come to this game cold will just go, well, this looks a bit scrappy and repetitive. But for me, it's a world of pure imagination, like Willy Wonka said. And it takes me away from a day full of filling out Excel sheets for cash. 7 is free time. So the game is quite short and easy, and I don't have a lot of free time anymore. And when I get the urge to unload heavy weaponry into a dragon's face and I've only got 20 minutes to spare, this game fits the bill perfectly. Yeah, so I do play it every now and again, to this day, which is groovy. And I freaking love the front cover on this game as well. It's lovely stuff. So in conclusion, yeah, this game is not as good looking as the arcade machine, and you can get the arcade version of this game on multiple devices and in multiple places now. So whereas back in the day, back in the 80s when the game first came out, never saw the game in the wild, this game is sort of everywhere these days. So you could go for the arcade version over the Mega Drive, but the arcade version is really punishing. Like level 3 gets ridiculous, but it does have very nice visuals. The audio is still a bit weird actually in the arcade machine. The versions I've played with really, really loud laser effects. But I still love the Mega Drive version. It gives me what I need, which is 20 minutes of laser blasting fun with some nice graphics, a couple of hummable tunes, lovely control. Yeah, you get to shoot gods in the face. What more do you want? I would suggest nothing. So that's Forgotten Worlds. Super, super recommended. Yeah, that's just one reason why I love it. As you can see from the videos, it's a bit shonky these days. Like, objectively, you look at it coming at it cold, you just go, what the hell? But, you weren't there, man. You didn't live through it. This game's great. Alright then. Ta-ra.